Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bruichladdich online tasting.
Evening.
Excited to be here. Obviously, a change of scenery from your usual with Brian. It's me and Johnny doing it tonight. Brian and Karen have taken a well-earned weekend break, so we're here. We're standing in.
Bear with us. Might be some teething issues. Hopefully not. But
yeah,
everything looks to be working fine just now and sounding all right. Hopefully.
Absolutely. So let us know if anything's wrong. Put it in the comments, and we'll try and fix it. But no, we've got a really good lineup tonight. Looking forward to trying these drams, 8 tasty drams. There's a couple of dates on your sheet at the bottom, dates for the diary. 21st of August, provisionally, the Whisky live tasting in Dumfries. That's now confirmed as the live tasting in Dumfries. And the 28th of August, provisionally, the online one. That's now confirmed as the online one. So those dates are correct. And then we've got Tormore Distillery later on in the year in October. That one's really exciting. Tormore with a great range of new whiskies just coming out, under new ownership as well in the last few years. So really looking forward to trying that. But 8 brilliant drams to get through first tonight. So we are delighted to welcome Sarah Wood from Remy Cointreau.
Welcome, Sarah.
Oh.
Is the mic working?
Oh, there we go.
I'm already.
There we go. That's
How
it.
embarrassing. Hello, how are you?
Evening, Sarah. Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you for joining us.
Very welcome.
Looking forward to tonight's drams.
I know, me too. A couple right beside me that I've opened up so I can enjoy them with you tonight, because when I did the live tasting a couple of weeks ago, I was driving, so I never got to enjoy them with you. But tonight I've decided I'll imbibe along with you. I'm triple parked. I'm doing some responsible drinking. Right. Pint of water. And
that's the benefit of the online ones. We're all in places we don't have to drive home from. So
exactly.
No, I know. Ideal. When it finishes, I can just fall into my bed. It's great. Again.
Excellent. Will we get started with number 1 then?
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So bear with me, as this is the first time I think I've actually done an online tasting ever, to be honest with you. So basically, I'm just going to chat.
For us as well.
Yeah, okay, well, fair. We're all just having some teething issues, so I think we'll get into it by dram 6. Well, you all be a wee bit merry by dram 6, so they'll not be minding too much.
The chatter will hopefully be flowing by then.
But as Callum and Johnny said, I'm Sarah. I work for Remy Cointreau, so just get the elephant in the room out there already. We are the parent company of Bruichladdich. We've owned Bruichladdich since 2012. And I look after independent retail. So I look after wonderful shops like TB Watson, and I have done for the last 3.5 years. It actually sounds crazy because I feel like I'm still getting used to doing tastings and things, but it's actually like my favorite part of my job, other than obviously the window displays. If anyone's seen the TB Watson window display, they are fake yellow submarine bottles. There's no liquid in them. Don't ask for one.
Unfortunately, they're not real. I should have taken a wee photo of that for the. I should have taken a wee photo of that for the banner. You know, the tasting sort of profile picture. That
yeah. But, I mean, we can see how good your new nifty camera is if you can just do a pan around.
To be honest, it would have been too sunny. You probably just would have seen my reflection through the glass anyway, so it wouldn't have looked that good.
So if anyone hasn't already done so, I would please encourage you to drink, but also pour your first dram. I am terrible for just kind of chatting away and then not actually inviting anyone to start drinking. So please start drinking while I remember. This evening, we're going to go through 8 drams, which is already in itself quite incredible and quite a nice feat. So already, if you're already sitting at home, then it's the perfect place to enjoy some lovely whiskies. I don't know if this is a bit different to how other people do their tastings, but it's just kind of how I like doing it, to be honest with you. I'm just going to sit here for a bit and tell you some stories. I have sat through many a tasting where I've been told what I should be tasting and sitting there a bit like, oh, I don't know what that is and I don't know what that tastes like, so how am I meant to identify it in a whiskey? I've always kind of had this concept of how you see colour and how I see colour are different. So with how I taste things and how you taste things, they might be different as well. So there's a very much a safe space here. I obviously can't see anyone else, but if you want to add water to your whiskey, you're welcome to. I do draw the line a little bit of Dr. Pepper, but Iron Brew, I think, is a welcome as well.
Each to their own.
We're going to start off with
Things are buying whiskey and drinking it. It's the main thing.
10-year-old. Sorry, am I lagging? Am I sorry?
No, you're all good.
It might be me. I'm not sure.
No, you're fine. The one I have in my hands is the non-age statement, probably one of the last of its kind, but the one that you'll have in your packs is the Bruichladdich Classic Laddie 10-year-old. So this actually just recently changed. Well, I say recently, probably about this time last year, maybe earlier in August. Classic Laddie used to be a non-age statement. It is now bottled at 10 years old minimum. And the wonderful thing about Classic Laddie is the kind of full transparency on there. I'm going to go into that in a little bit, but I just thought I'd kind of like set the scene with you, if that's all right. And again, rather than telling you about like gumdrop buttons and sunrays and gorgeous other tasting notes that I can imagine when I drink Classic Laddie, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I know about the distillery, if that's all right. Information I've gathered in the last 3.5 years of working for them, but also in the years previous of drinking Bruichladdich and just having a bit of a merry time with anyone that I know that can tell me more stories. One joy that I have many joys in my job, clearly, but one joy that I have is whiskey festivals and fans of Bruichladdich coming up to me at the whiskey stand and just telling me so many things about what they enjoy from Bruichladdich of years gone by. I mean, they've been drinking it for longer than I've known about it, so it's always welcome information. So yeah, I'm just going to impart some of the stories that they've told me and a lot of the knowledge that I have just cooped up in this little brain of mine, if that's all right. So,
absolutely, by all means, yep.
Fire away.
Cast our minds back to 1856. William Harvey III. I know, it was a long time ago. William Harvey III, unfortunately, has passed away, and in his wake leaves 2 distilleries between 3 sons. Now, we have a banker, if you like, a finance guy. We have a builder, an architect, and we have a distiller.
We better lag there. What's happening?
No, you're okay now.
Seems to be fixed now.
Cool. Yep. So we have 3 sons, and their father just passed away, and in their inheritance, if you like, there has been 2 distilleries left to them. It was Dundas Hill and Yoker. And the kind of idea of basically completing their trifecta, if you like, or their hat trick of distilleries, they decided they were going to build a new one on the far-flung Isle of Islay on the west coast of Scotland. Do we have anyone that's not from the UK on this? Do we know?
I don't think so this time. We do have a couple of customers that
just in case anyone was going to try and test my geography, because my geography is shocking. It is on the west coast. It's a 20-minute flight from Glasgow Airport. Enough time for a sip of water and a tonic sea cake. That's all I know. But yeah, so the brothers set out to build a distillery on Islay. And the reason they actually picked Islay was because in a similar time, there was the invention of the flatbed steamboat called the Glasgow Puffer, which allowed them to take raw ingredients raw materials from the mainland over to Islay. At that time as well, it was actually blended whiskies. It was like more of the higher sought after range of whiskey compared to single malt, which is kind of, I don't know if I don't look down my nose at blended whiskies. I love a blended whiskey, but at the time it was blended whiskies was here and single malt whiskey was here. I think it's kind of evened out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's gone the other way now.
A little bit over time. I can just see all my face reactions as well. I don't think I've ever looked at my face so much and seen how much.
It's a weird thing.
I'm going to get these clipped up as well.
At least me and Callum are kind of sharing the burden of our screen.
We do.
So,
just move further back so no one can see me and just hide in the background. So the brothers being brothers, they decided they were going to put this distillery on Islay. And at the time, it was actually the biggest kind of farm distillery on the island at the time. It was basically made for purpose. It was only a little bit of Islay whiskey that you would use within your blends, but they were really ramping up the idea of having a big, massive distillery in order to create higher volume so that they could add to their other 2 distilleries and essentially have world domination of the whiskey industry. And I think that was the dream. What a dream to have. had lots of partners along the way as well as they kind of created the distillery. And before I think they even started making any whiskey, brothers being brothers, they fell out. And unfortunately, I think ever since then until about 2000, Bruichladdich has kind of been hot potatoed left, right, and centre. So kind of 1, 2, skip a few, if you like. Bruichladdich reopened its gates 25 years ago this year. It was on September 11, 2001 that we distilled our first spirit, but the gates were open before then, just kind of a bit of a opening. And I think of the open for a feast, to be honest with you. It was the Whisky Festival on Islay. Yeah. So we're kind of set at a time of 2001. It was Mark and Simon. So Mark, two men, Mark Rayner and Simon Coughlin, coming from a wine background, both London wine merchants. They, I think it was like happen chance that they even came across Bruichladdich. Like, I think they were kind of famously, and I've unfortunately not met either of the men, although I know one of the guy's sons. It's kind of famous that they didn't like whiskey in the beginning. And it was one of them came across Bruichladdich. I think they'd won a bottle in a raffle, or they were, and I know they're in Milroy's of Soho in London, and they were made to try a dram of Bruichladdich, some of the whiskey that had been created during the one point when it had been open making whiskey. And they fell in love with it, fell in love with Bruichladdich. And this was during this probably late 1990s, late 1990s, because it wasn't until 2000 that they decided that they were going to go have a gander and go over to Islay and visit their favourite distillery. And it wasn't until they got to the gates of the distillery that they found it was closed. And at that time, they only had 2 employees on at the distillery working at just making sure that all the casks were kept and they were turning away nicely and they're just aged and just basically have a little bit of security. And I'm trying to be very PC because I think anyone that sat in my live tasting knows that I have a tally marks of how many times I say barley and how many times I say the F word. I thought I'd try to be a bit more polite at this one, but this is a direct quote, so I feel I can get away with this one if that's all right.
Go
so
for it. Absolutely.
His favourite distillery after creating a bit of a collection, to be honest with you. I think he'd gone around trying to find old bottles of Bruichladdich for himself and to enjoy. Takes the pilgrimage from London all the way up to, I think it would have been Kenna Craig, and he got the flight over with his bike, cycled up to the gates of Bruichladdich, get to the courtyard, see a man cross and be like, excuse me, sir, this is my favourite distillery. Would you mind if I came and have a look? Keep in mind, I'm also very Scottish and they are not Scottish people. So pinch of salt. I hope they're not watching. That would be embarrassing as well. But to which he was told to fuck off. The famous quote that I've been told. And that's a direct story, so I'm not getting in trouble for that one.
You're quoting.
Quoting, direct quote from... I think it may have been embellished somewhat, but don't let the truth get away with a good story, in my opinion.
That's it.
Absolutely.
But I think, do you know what I find so interesting though is that instead of going home and doing away with his collection, you do as any man with wealthy friends do, and you go and decide you're going to buy this distillery to reopen it. And what a wonderful adventure it's been since. So it's been ours 25 years since we opened. We were bought over by Remy Cointreau in 2012, which essentially just allowed us to kind of clear some debts and continue the great work that we've been that Mark and Simon set off to do in 2001. To go back to the actual whiskey, though, this could be a long night.
Very nice.
This in my brain.
Whiskey, indeed.
Bruichladdich Classic Laddie is kind of I call it the handshake to the world. It's kind of how we say hello. It's probably our most iconic bottle, if I'm being honest with you. It's the one that saves me a lot of hassle when I'm going into pubs and bars, because I can just look at the gantry and just be like, oh, I see blue, I'm done here. Makes it drop quite. But what I love about it as well is this is kind of Classic Laddie is essentially a vatting. It's a vatting of different casks from across our warehouses that are, again, aced together to create a signature flavour profile that we've had since its first ever release. There's no set recipe to Bruichladdich, classic laddie. I think it's, as we know, heavily influenced by bourbon casks, but there's a little bit of a mixed mass, if you like, of different casks that make its way in there, and some that don't upon each edition, if you like. If anyone has a classic laddie at home, I thoroughly suggest, if you don't already, buy one from the TV. Yeah, discount. I'm a saleswoman. Don't want to know. If you go onto your,
it's on at a good price as well for a little while. On at $44.95 this one. So,
and we've got a little extra this time. You can scan that QR code at the top of your screen, and that'll take you directly to the website up there somewhere where you can buy it.
Gosh, look at that, that's high tech. Jeez Louise, love it. But if you go onto your bottle of Bruichladdich Classic Laddie, you can go onto the Bruichladdich website, go onto Classic Laddie, and then you can put in the batch code, which is found typically just in the kind of black print. Ooh, nope. I'm not an influencer, as you can tell. But if you go on to where your barcode is, there's a little black print there, and there's typically 5 numbers. So it's like 2 numbers stroke and then 3 numbers. And if you put your batch code into the reveal, if you like, section of the Bruichladdich Classic Laddie on the website, you can actually see the cask breakdown of all of your bottle. So for example, this one could be, I think this one is actually, when I looked at it last, was a vatting of 85 casks. It was 5 vintages, 14 cask types, and different barley types as well. And I think that kind of level of transparency is incredible. Bruichladdich were very much ahead of the time, if you like, when they decided that this is what they were going to do and this is the benchmark that they were going to set out, of demystify or decloak the kind of mystery that is Scotch, that is single malt whiskey. I think there's so much highbrow that can be intimidating to anyone trying to get into whiskey. And I think one thing that they really allowed for the industry was just getting to know what's in the bottle, or getting to know what's in the glass. And for someone that's quite interested in whiskey like myself, it's like, it's a massive cheat sheet, which is great, because it just, you don't need to kind of second guess anything about Bruichladdich. If anyone's got a Islay barley to hand as well, which is our next dram, it's probably the most heavily worded whiskey label in the industry, and it tells you so much information about there, but we'll get onto that one. But yeah, Classic Laddie, it's a wonderful starting dram. It's our handshake to the world. It's how we say hello. So hopefully you have enjoyed that one. I did say this is a safe space, because you're welcome to add water to your whiskey, because all of our whiskies that we're trying this evening are minimum 50% alcohol. That's just how we find our spirit shines best. And also just kind of allows the kind of the last finishing touches, if you like, to be completely up to the person drinking it. How you drink your whiskey is totally up to you, and it's no one else's job to tell you how to do it. But we bottle at 50%, and I think that's kind of where Classic Laddie shines best. On its own, lovely, but as a highball, even better. Right now, I'm enjoying it as a half and half, and I will probably enjoy something else as a half and half as we go on. But yeah,
I was scouring the Bruichladdich website for content and pictures and stuff, and I saw there's a lot of information on loads of different cocktails that they're recommending at the moment. So,
there was one that we had with Classic Laddie, and it was Jubal Peach with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And I tell you what, that is like the drink of the summer, because we did a little partnership with Jubal in another role of mine, and they're like, "Can we send you some beer?" And I was like, "Yep, peach, peach, I'm away to it." But yeah, so Classic Laddie lends itself well to cocktails, 100%. But if you just want to drink it as a dram, I mean, again, not going to tell you how to drink whiskey. So yeah, so a big thing about what Mark and Simon come from, and kind of like their ideology, if you like, for the distillery and when they were kind of reopening, was similar to what they were finding in the wine industry. So if anyone drinks wine on the chat, hello. I also love a vino.
I drink a fair bit of wine to do that.
Yeah, we all like wine as well.
You often do wine tastings. If you didn't know, they do a wine and a dinner.
We have a wine club. We do tastings every couple of months. So Next
but I
one will
was,
be on the 23rd
I
of
was trying to tell me
July.
on that one, I'm pretty sure, when I was last time. But yeah, so they came from the wine background, and kind of the ideology, if you like, behind wine is traceability and transparency. Where your grapes grow matters. How your grapes grow matter. What grapes grow matter. And it's all known and it's all discussed. And I mean, when was the last time you just said red wine? Like, I mean, there's obviously some that have just red wine, but like the people that are into their wine, it's all about the grape, it's all about the vintage, etc. And they just couldn't find that kind of level of information, transparency within the whiskey industry at the time. Since then, there's obviously been more distilleries opening and having that kind of level of information available to its consumer, which we can only think is a great thing, because the more people know about their whiskey, the better, and the more knowledgeable we all become. But at the time, very limited in the information that people were getting supplied, and these kind of set about having a bit of a change on that. And so, if we're on to our next dram, if this is going too quickly, I do apologise, but I like to drink quite quickly.
Absolutely fine.
So we're going on to the Bruichladdich Islay barley next, which is a 2014 vintage.
Let's change all my banners here. Here we go. New photo, new barcode up in the top left, folks, if you want to have a look at that on the website too.
Gorgeous.
Sorry, Sarah.
No, you're fine. So the Islay barley is part of our barley exploration series. And the series is essentially called like the where, the what, and the how. So can you imagine you've paid £6.5 million for a distillery? In fact, I think they paid £6.5 million for the 1.2 million litres of whiskey that was in there, and they got a distillery thrown in on the side because that thing was it hadn't been running for about 8 years or so, and they were like, that is chance, good luck with that. Enjoy the drams kind of thing. But that's a lot of money to be putting into an investment where you're currently not making anything. So you can only just imagine that they're so excited for the first load of barley to come off of the ferry, for it to have come from the malting plant that we have a partnership with. And I can only imagine, and I mean, this is a story that I have very much put into my imagination and tell everybody, because I can just, this is what I would be like. I'd be like a kid in a candy shop, right? You're coming from a wine background. You're like, where are the grapes go, Baron? So you can just be like, your wee man's on his tractor or his truck. He's come off the It's so much easier doing when I'm actually in a seat. Try to do this when you're standing. It's so odd. But you can only imagine the wee guy's in his truck. He's come off the ferry after a long journey, and Mark and Simon are ready to greet him, and they basically bombard him with a lot of questions of like, so where did your barley come from? Do you know the provenance of it? Do you know what type of barley it is? Do you know the colour of the socks of the farmer that farmed it? Do you know who they are? Do you know what that comes from? And the guy can just be like, barley comes in, whiskey comes off. That's pretty much all my job is. And I think that was kind of when it dawned on them that there really isn't a sense of place or micro provenance into the raw ingredients that are used in whiskey at the time. So yeah, they set about kind of creating this where, what, and how series, if you like. We have refined it a bit more so since Remy Concho took over in 2012, because again, we had I think we had a release for the opening of an envelope in the very beginning, so a bit more refined now. But this is Islay barley, so this is the where, if you like. And the idea behind this is to have provenance and a sense of place attached to our whiskey. Now, I'm in no way bashing any other Islay whiskey. We're just kind of wanting to set ourselves apart a little bit. But there's no certification of what has to happen for you to be called an Islay whiskey other than it being distilled there. That's all that really has to happen. In some cases, Islay whiskey can be there for as little as 72 hours, like 80 odd hours, you know.
Yeah,
so
shipped back to the mainland, then matured over there in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of decided there and then we were going to have 100% Scottish barley. We were going to start looking at Islay grown barley. And we were going to have all of our casks aged on the island and bottled on the island to keep everything as Islay and as traditional as possible. I will be honest, the malting process happens in Inverness at Baird's, and we'll go on to that a little bit later. if everyone could buy about 9 million bottles of whiskey each, we'd maybe afford our own malting facility in the near future. But we know where the state of the economy is at the moment. So one day. But yeah, so the year is 2004, and we go to our first farmer, a man called Raymond Stewart, and we say, do you think you could grow barley for us for whiskey production? And I think it was a bit of a, do you know that barley hasn't been grown on Islay for whiskey production since about World War II? And we go, oh, that's maybe why no one else is doing it. If you think about Islay, far-flung isle on the west coast of Scotland, other than the weather that we've experiencing the last 3 days, the weather on Islay, I think on average it rains about 200 days a year. During the season for them, there's about 30,000 geese that descend on the island, and if it's not geese that are randomly like just come over per season, it's the deer that are there that will just munch on all your crops. So there's a lot of reasons not to believe and not to think that it would work. But Raymond, being just a sound guy, just like, I'll give it a go. I think there was the promise of a reasonable payment of if you don't yield anything and you've spent all this work and hard work and grit going into actually creating something and growing something for us and nothing happens, we'll still pay you for that, because that's obviously, it's an adventure for us, it's an exploration for us, and you shouldn't be punished just because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Nothing was grown in 2005. So no other farmers came on board in 2005 because they wanted to see how this venture went for the first barley released in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
We fast forward to 2026, right? We have over 20 partner farmers, which last year allowed us to have more than 50% production using Islay grown barley.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in itself is quite special. We have lost one or two along the way, whether that be retirement or whether that be they decided they wanted to grow the barley for their own whiskey. That is okay as well. But you'll find that within your Islay Barley 2014 vintage, they are one of the farmers on the bottle. So this is a collection of 8 farmers within about 15 miles of the distillery. So super local provenance, which is, I mean, if you think about it, the amount of distilleries, the amount of Scottish distilleries, how many are able to say that their barley is grown within that kind of distance to their distillery? Not very many. There are a few more now, which is amazing. We love to see that. But at the time, again, it's just so unheard of. But I mentioned wine earlier, and I mentioned vintage of wine, because this in itself is a single vintage, if you like. So all of the barley from 8 farms was harvested between September and October 2013. And then it was malted, milled, mash distilled in 2014. And then it was aged for 8 years in a combination of bourbon cask, Sauternes dessert wine cask, and Oloroso sherry cask. You'll find that within and basically across a lot of the Bruichladdich ranges that we'll try this evening, we are very, very heavily influenced, and we have a lot of use of bourbon cask maturation. For example, the Islay barley there is about 80% bourbon cask, 15% Sauternes cask, and 5% Oloroso sherry cask. Because why would you go to all of the effort of growing really hard to grow, locally sourced barley, and then put it in something you can never even taste the raw spirit and the raw cereal from there? So yes, this is a very light whiskey. I think I would go so far as to say it's a bit of a breakfast whiskey, which is, I mean, it's 1 minute to 8 on a Friday night, so I'm guessing it's not quite not everyone's first dram. You've had Classic Laddie as your first one, but when I do whiskey tastings and stuff, I'm always just like, I try that one first. That'll wet the whistle, then you can try the rest. But it's super light. For me, again, this is all just kind of personal opinion. I'm not going to tell you what you should taste, but it's very light. It's very cereal forward. It's got this beautiful kind of green grassy notes and stuff as well. But it's just a dang good whiskey, right? And what I think is super interesting about it as well, there are different vintages. Need my pen, sorry. There's different vintages. So this is the 2014 vintage. There's been a 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010, etc. That when you compare them year upon year, is super fascinating because yes, it's different parts of the island that they might have been grown from, that the barley might have been harvested from, but in essence, it's all from the same place, right?
Yep.
But we lean into inconsistency, and I think that's what's so beautiful about Bruichladdich is that we are not about chill filtration, adding colouring so that everything looks the same. There's like a uniformity to everything. It's not. I mean, even Classic Laddie, like I said, Classic Laddie is probably our most highest created or produced product, but even that's not to a set recipe. That will change. And I think like anyone that's in, anyone that was in Glasgow today knows an absolute downpour last night and today. But to the extent that the weather can change day to day, if you look upon that upon season, like, and you put that, you relate that to farming, and you relate that to barley creation, it's just all these little factors all have a micro influence on what happens to the whiskey at the end of the day. And I think when you try Islay barley, you could try one Islay barley in a bar, and then the next day you try something else. Even just that night, try 2 drams side by side. Which, if you have 2 glasses and you haven't finished this dram yet, despite the fact that I've been talking for blinking ages, I would thoroughly recommend that you get another glass, run and get your cupboard and get your other Glencairn or a tumbler, a beaker, a mug if you like, and pour the old school into your new glass, because the old school, which again is a really cool bottle, is actually a 10-year-old Islay barley. So what we've just had is an 8-year-old Islay barley, but what we're moving on to is a 10-year-old Islay barley. So even just to have them side by side is very interesting because of the age of them, yes, but also it'll be a different year of harvest, which potential in the back bottle. But yes, I think that's so fascinating. So if you try different vintages year upon year, there will be such differences. I touched upon, so we have the where, the what, and the how. We're not trying them this evening, but those are really interesting drams that are available as well. So the how being, how is the barley farmed, which is our organic release. And that's all done at Belcross Farm in Inverness. And then we have the what, and that's what type of barley is used, which we is the bear barley release, BERE. I see bear, people say bear, some people say beer. I mean, tell someone.
I don't know what's right and wrong when it comes to that.
Until a farmer tells me, I'm just going to say bear, bear and grit it. But we have a relationship with farmers up in Orkney, so they farm bear barley for us up there. I think we did try to farm bear barley on Islay, but I think Islay spat it back out, to be honest with you. It's a very, very hard barley to grow. Right. Bear barley is a historical grain of barley, and if anyone didn't know, it's actually the first barley type used in whiskey distillation, so the original Ushkabaha, which is amazing. But it was actually on the brink of extinction, and it was ourselves and Arran Distillery, shout out Arran, that started using it back into agricultural circulation by using it in the whiskey industry, because at that time there was no efficiently economical use of bear barley other than bear barley cakes, I think, up in Orkney. I think that's not enough reason for farmers to farm that. Because if you a commercial barley, for example, is like a concerto barley. If you're to farm concerto barley and bear barley up in Orkney side by side, you will yield far more concerto than you will bear, due to it's a 6-row variety rather than 2 or 4-row, and it grows on the in really like tight nubbings, which is like it's not the most efficient. It also grows not as tall as concerto, so you actually need a different type of combine harvester. I think this is getting super geeky, so sorry. But yeah, but this is this is a labor of love. I mean, at least I haven't mentioned Jerry Clarkson Farm yet, because I mean that there's many Clarkson Farm or other one, but I think I just finished the season, so I was like, it's all in my head. But this is a level of passion and commitment that I feel like Mark and Simon really installed within Bruichladdich when they reopened, and that there's no price on doing the right thing, I think, if that makes sense. So the bear barley was in danger of becoming extinct if no one used it, if no one had need for it. And so year upon year, we had different releases of bear barley. Bear barley is the only one that's actually not in Classic Laddie. You'll find organic barley, Islay barley, mainland barley, Black Isle barley, etc. in Classic Laddie, but the only one you won't find is Bear because it's so limited. Yeah, so that's a little bit about that. I could just go off a little tangent about that, so I won't stop. But yeah, 2 seconds.
So is it always a mix of different barleys that go into the other releases, like to the Classic Laddie? Is it always different barley types, or?
We have different barley types, yeah. So you have a Pinot barley, there is Alba, there is Concerto, there is I'm losing all my barley types, so just falling out of my brain hole. But yes, there are different barley types. I think it's just like Laureate barley.
That seems to be the most popular one, or the most common one, maybe.
Yes, and I think we do have Golden Promise barley in some of our releases as well, which is also a historical grain of barley, but that one's becoming a bit more popular and a bit more kind of well-known.
I was going to say that, Golden Promise is sort of making a comeback almost.
Making a comeback. I think it's a bit easier to grow than Bear, to be fair with you. But I think it's such an interesting time for whiskey because, yes, we're obviously... Whiskey's in a bit of a slump, as we kind of know. It's harder to sell whiskey, we all know. But it's, I think there's still the commitment to the cause, if that makes sense. There's still like that kind of sense of wonder and exploration, which I feel like never dies within whiskey. And I just absolutely love that. And now I just sound like a massive nerd, so I'm going to stop. Gosh, right. So, Bruichladdich, 25 years. Has anyone in the chat tried the old school so far? Has anyone tried the yellow submarine and not tried to break in and buy the empty bottles in the window?
A question from Sarah here in the chat as well.
Early 2000s, we were there.
Sarah to Sarah.
Was I think a Whisky Academy at Bruichladdich, would that be in Mark and Simon's time? Early 2000s, so we reopened 2001. So yes, that'll be Mark and Simon's time. It was closed October 1993. That's a lie. It was bought by, I think there was a bit of a coup between Invergordon and White and Mackay. We'll get into that in a bit, but it was closed in 1993 and it was reopened in 2001. So if you went to Bruichladdich in 2000, that was Mark and Simon's time. Yes, sorry. Don't ask me questions. I feel I get to like the point is here and I get all the way to get there. But yes, 25 years. So if anyone's managed to try any of the 2 releases that we've had so far, if not, you're in luck. We have one of the firsts here. So this is the Bruichladdich Old School. Old school in the sense of it's, oh Lord of mercy. Oh gosh, Sarah Woods, you're not very good at this, are you? Can we see the bottle? I think it's gorgeous. Okay. This is quite similar labeling to an old school release that we did have in years gone by. So it's a bit of a nod to the past, but very much championing Islay grown barley and being very much an Islay whiskey. This one is bottled at 50% again, and instead of the 8 years that we've had in our previous Islay whiskey, this one is 10 years old. It is matured in 95% bourbon cask and 5% Sauterne cask. If anyone was interested in that, I can tell you that. There you are. There has obviously been the second release. So this one was released in March, so just before the turning of our kind of 25th birthday. And obviously the second one that we've had is the Yellow Submarine 3. So if anyone is interested and wants to hear the story of the Yellow Submarine, I'm going to tell you. If anyone doesn't want to listen, you can get a wee pee break. You're welcome. Sure, Golden Promise is lower than others, so is more expensive to use. Yes, it is. It's similar to the yield and the efficiency of the growth efficiency and harvest of Golden Promise, and typically your historical barley grains are very low yield and they're not really they're not economically viable things, really, to be fair. They're economically viable, yes, because obviously we still do it and we still sell whiskey using them. But what I mean is, if you are starting up, I would say, and you're trying to be as efficient as possible, you would use a more modern barley, which has become a bit more rugged, if you like, and immune to a lot of more diseases, and it's been cross-strained in a way that it becomes an efficient barley used for the purpose, whereas before it was just what was like farmed, and it was like not naturally occurring, but I guess naturally occurring, but yeah, the historical types of barley at the time. And as science has progressed, we have cross-mutated a lot of barley types just for the efficient genes out of them. Segue, so sorry, this is not going to finish at 9:30, boys. Segue, we have in Remy, we have Westland Distillery, which is based out of Seattle. I think you guys have to stock some of it anyway, so this is a good plug. But they have a partnership with a kind of a bread factory in Seattle, where they create different strains of barley purposely for the use of producing whiskey out of it. So I think, in fact, that there's 4 warehouses that Westland currently age their whiskey in. And in those 4 warehouses alone, there's more barley types within their whiskey than there is in the whole Scotch whiskey industry.
Wow.
You can call bullshit on that, but I'm pretty sure that's a fact. I will die on that fact. There we are.
I trust you.
Cool, thank you.
Have you been out that way as well, Sarah?
Say that again?
Have you been out that way to Westland?
Very fortunately, I have been. Yes, I have been to Westland, been to Pacific Northwest, and it's incredible. I think what they're doing out there is it is wonderful. It is very much the kind of they have the same synergy as Bruichladdich, and they're very much championing sense of place. So they have one of my favorite whiskies actually is the Westland Gariana, which uses Quercus Gariana, which is a native oak species to Pacific Northwest America. It's actually an endangered species, but so they only use them when they've been felled or they've had to cut them down to save the other trees in the area. But it's like proper, how the Wampin Willow in Harry Potter. My God, I'm so sorry. How the Wampin Willow in Harry Potter is kind of like gnarly. That's kind of like what the wood is like. So it's not very efficient wood, but it kind of allows them to instill a sense of place within their whiskey because it is only native to Pacific North America, where obviously we don't really have Scots pine, but that's mostly in America as well. Anyway, but yeah, that's quite cool. They use native in Solom, they have native peat, and then in Callery is their expression where they use locally created barley types. So sorry, that was a tangent. Yellow Submarine.
My fault completely.
Yeah. People are going to stop asking questions. You're like, I want to get to my bed.
You're worried about the tasting being too short. There we go.
We'll move on to the Bruichladdich 18. I'll go on to that one quite quickly. So I'll introduce that one to you. Do I have one? I do. Excellent. Bruichladdich 18 is it's a whiskey of first for us, if you like. As I said, Mark and Simon bought the distillery, and with that came 1.2 million litres of whiskey. And some of that was dating back to 1985. And with that, you've bought a distillery, you haven't really kind of got things up and running yet. You're not creating your own whiskey. Plus, also, you need to wait the fact of 3 years and a day to then start releasing it. So they just started releasing whiskies left, right, and centre just to kind of cover the bills, bring some money in, and kind of churn out some of their stock holdings. So we have obviously had age statements in the past. We've had, I think it was Laddie 10, Laddie 18, Laddie 22, you name it, we probably had a Laddie for it. But this whiskey here, so the Bruichladdich 18 is a whiskey of first because it is the first 18-year-old, or at the time as well, it was the first age statement from the Bruichladdich range. We obviously had Port Charlotte 10, another story. That is all our own liquid. And what I mean by that is that this is the whiskey that we started distilling post 2001.
Right.
There is full traceability in all of the barley and all of the casks, all the way down to essentially I don't think they have the color of the pants of the farmer, but I feel like they could ask and they could probably get out just of a pants are grey.
It's written down somewhere.
Yeah. It's actually this was released in February 2024. Is the first release of the Bruichladdich 18. It came out side by side with the Bruichladdich 30, which, as I've been saying, we just turned 25 years reopened. So the 30-year-old was drawn on stock from the period in which we obviously inherited the stock, to kind of showcase side by side the kind of differences in what Bruichladdich was making then and is making now. But the 30-year-old is obviously the old stock, and that is dwindling quite a bit. So I think that's kind of just a note in there. But the Bruichladdich 18 has the first distillate of Islay grown barley in there. So that 2004 barley that we were talking about from Raymond Stewart, that is in there. And the first organically grown barley from 2005 is in there as well. So this one here, if anyone hasn't seen it in person, comes with a lovely little blue jacket. And the wee blue jacket. The blue jacket is actually it's made out of paper pulp, and it is a whiskey first. Again, a whiskey and firsts. There has been champagne houses. I think it's Runart's Blanc de Blanc has a paper pulp jacket, kind of helping with the light striking. Is that the word that they use for wine? There we go.
Right.
But this is the first of within the whiskey industry. So obviously we've waited all this time to release something that's our own whiskey. It's our own age statement, and we wanted some level of like giftability to the whiskey. And I think something that's super interesting about it as well is it lends itself well into our ethos of this is recycled paper pulp, and then can go into your organics bin and be fully compostable as well. My dad says that he's been starting to use them at the bottom of his plant pots, and they're very good for drainage. So anyone that doesn't believe me, you can ask my dad. But it lends itself well into our kind of ethos of less packaging and less kind of secondary packaging, if you like. So as you'll know, across the first, I think the 7 releases that we have that we're tasting this evening, none of them have boxes, none of them have tins, they have no excess packaging, because we're just trying to do our one step forward in being more sustainable and better for the environment. But when you are paying, you're not paying £150 this evening because there's a lovely little discount, thankfully, thanks to Brian and TV Watson. But when you pay that kind of money for a whiskey, you do want that level of giftability. And I think the jacket kind of lends itself well into something that's just a bit quirky, it's a bit different. And what you're unveiling itself as well is a beautiful kind of glass decanter, which you can reuse as well. I think a lot of people in restaurants and stuff reuse these for little water jugs and stuff. So just kind of continue.
Glass stopper as well. That's really unusual.
Glass stopper, indeed, yes. I wouldn't pick it up from the glass stopper. There's been 1 or 2 bottles of that dropped in the car. My car always smells like whiskey, which is wonderful, especially when you're stopped by the police. Anyway, I'm never stopped by the police, I promise. But yes, it's unusual smells at 9 a.m. But yeah, that's a beautiful dram. So that one again it's 80% bourbon cask. It is 15% Sauterne cask, and it's 5% port pipe. 5% port pipe. Yep. Again, 50% ABV, and minimum age on that is 18 years old. I do think there's a batch code on this one. You can look up and see the cask breakdown of it. I've actually never done that one before. That's a thing for me to do. And if anyone wants to do it, the number is.
So that's one for the website as well, is it, Sarah?
That is one for the website. You would have to go into the Bruichladdich website and go into Bruichladdich 18. But that is 24/121. So if anyone wants to do that in their spare time and you can see a cask breakdown for that, please let me know in the comments, because that would be a lovely little learning adventure for us all to do together. Did I just say that? Yes, I did. How embarrassing.
The one thing that I forgot to do before I started this stream was take a note of that number. The one thing that I forgot to do before the start of the live stream was take a note of that number and check out what the breakup was.
Aye. So, yeah, we should have done it beforehand, right enough.
Here's one that had. We did the Classic Laddie live when we did the live tasting at the breakdown.
We did.
I quite enjoy it because obviously it changes. So I think the one that we had was 6 vintages. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Sorry, team. We're going back to the first one. Goodness me, she just chops and changes like the weather. But I think that's what's so interesting about Classic Laddie is that despite it being a 10-year-old whiskey, it's labelled as 10 years old, but we get 6 vintages in there. 6 vintages have to be older than the 10-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So great value for money, in my opinion. But anyway, we'll move on. What are we on to next? We're on to Port Shop. Gorgeous. Oh,
I'm still finishing off the 18, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
still
not
got
sure
a wee
it's-
bit 18 in glass, but
What's people's thoughts on the 18 then so far? Let's
yeah.
get some comments in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not your
Well,
favourite.
we're
You're all being too quiet.
They're like, shut up and just give us some more whiskey. But I think, like, so going back to the kind of 25th celebrations, I went to my first ever Fèis, which is the Islay Whisky Festival, and we went to Bruichladdich Day, and I think 3.5 years in, it was about time that I'd went, right? So I made the pilgrimage on the ferry this time. No Tunnocks tea cake for me, but made it onto the ferry and made it over for Fèis this year, and that's where we released for the people that were at the festival, Yellow Submarine, and then it was formally released to the public on the 1st of June. But for anyone that doesn't know the Yellow Submarine story, I think that's quite a fun one. Again, Bruichladdich always kind of been a distillery that's kind of, it takes the whiskey seriously and it takes the barley seriously. It takes your casks seriously, but it doesn't take themselves very seriously. A lot of tongue-in-cheek releases in the beginning. And it was 2005. Yes, 2005. Yes, I am. Thank you, Sarah. Let me tell you. Excellent. So now that I've got permission to tell you my story, I don't feel so embarrassed about just trying to shove that one in there because I do love this story. And I think it was my first live tasting with you guys 3 years ago was when I heard the story for the first time from one of the Bruichladdich fans. And then since then, it's obviously been a story that's retold and retold over and over again. And I just find it so fun because, again, it's an example of just Bruichladdich not taking themselves too seriously, which I like that because whiskey sometimes does take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's 2005 and there's two fishermen just off the coast bringing in their kind of their catches and stuff of the day, where they come across a 8-foot long yellow submersive yellow submarine, essentially, with the letters MOD printed on the side of it, and I think it's the Ministry of Defence. And essentially they had a bit of a back and forth with the Ministry of Defence, and to which they were obviously like, we are the British Navy, of course we do not lose any of our own belongings, don't be so obtuse, kind of thing. And they were like, all right, sound, no bother. So this guy hitches it to a tractor, wheels it to the front garden of his house, and it's like the local statue or something, or local tourist attraction in his front garden for a few weeks, until the Ministry of Defence kind of come to their senses and go, oh, actually, that might be ours. We might have misprinted it. Doing a routine, I think it was like remotely activated, so obviously there was nobody on it. It was a remote activated submersive, just doing a little kind of like general check, so they say. And we might have misplaced it, if you like. So could we come get it? And they're like, aye, no bother. But by this point, it's obviously been a few weeks, and Bruichladdich have seen it, obviously, and they've got a whiskey for that. So when the British Navy come and they collect the Yellow Submarine, not necessarily in the dead of night, but I think they kind of tried to come in like quite incognito, and we presented them with the first ever Yellow Submarine, which was in 2005, and it was a 14-year-old Bruichladdich unpeated bourbon cask, red wine cask, just for a bit of fun. And they took it in good faith as well, which was great. But then we also kind of were like, can we run with this? Because this would make us some money. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of fun. Because that followed up our 2004 release of the Whisky of Mass Distinction, number 2, which I only just got to try for the first time on the 4th of June. That was a whiskey that we released prior to Yellow Submarine, because there had been kind of calls again from Ministry of Defence, because it was a satellite had picked up a lot of copper moving from the mainland to Islay on a barge, and they very much were just like, that's kind of signalling like machinery that can be used to make weapons of mass destruction. I don't know if those words are then going to make this video very much vetoed off the internet, but there you are. So we again, in good faith and just tongue-in-cheek nonsense, created a whiskey that had a bottle of whiskey and a missile, and just to kind of the spot the difference kind of things on it. So we had that, and then we had the Yellow Submarine one, and then it was 2000, and I'm actually going to check I had notes on this one because I wasn't very sure. Yeah, 2018 we released whiskey Yellow Submarine 2, which was a 25-year-old. So we essentially just took any of the whiskey from the vatting of the first one, aged it further, and then we released that as a 25-year-old, and that's been obviously since 2018. There's been no Yellow Submarine. And we thought for the 25th anniversary, we'll have a revival, if you like, of the classic tale, and have Yellow Submarine number 3, which again was kind of a nod to the first release of a 14-year-old aged in bourbon cask and red wine cask. And I mean, if none of you have tried it, it's terrible. You won't like it. I'm so sorry. You're not missing out. But for those that have tried it, and it's delicious. And it good. But yeah, okay, sorry.
We did a ballot with our whiskey club, Sarah, and it was all gone immediately. So there was no chance of us getting a try of it.
Oh, really?
But having said that, it will be people in our whiskey club that got it from us. So some of them could be watching live tonight. So
yay! Get it cracked. It's delicious. But no, I think that's what's
sample coming our way at some point from one of the members.
If anyone just wants to bring one in, that'd be great. We're sharing our whiskey with you. But yeah, no, I think that was a great way of you guys doing it, was a ballot, because then it's actually rewarding the customers that come to your shop rather than just any bots that are online trying to just buy and resell it.
I have to say, we still get asked, and even to 4 o'clock today, we got asked for a bottle because it's in the window. But
the idea was actually to have a Yellow Submarine window all year long, and I was like, that's not going to go down well in November when we were like, oh, do you have more? And we're like, it's like maybe day 3. Day 1 probably, actually. I think it was the first day sell it, which was incredible. But yes, sorry. Right, next.
Ready to move on, yeah.
That was perfect time. I've just finished that 18 now.
Absolutely. I'm just pouring number 5, so...
This is also like the halftime way they'd have like wee plate of sandwiches and stuff, isn't it? I didn't realise I forgot there were sandwiches at halftime. Unfortunately, there's no sandwiches in your wee tasting box, but if anyone wants to go make a wee piece, you're welcome to, you're encouraged to, with responsible drinking, etc. But yes, okay, cool. So we're moving on to the peated section of this evening. One thing I obviously kind of missed out in the beginning, sorry. Typically when I'm in person, I kind of like read the room of like who likes peated whiskey, who doesn't like peated whiskey. If anyone in the comments wants to tell me now, if you don't like peated whiskey, this is probably when you're going to tap out anyway. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can keep you a little bit longer, because how do I explain this? I tried to explain it last night, but I just sounded dead old because it was a room full of people that were definitely in the like early 20s, and I'm 32 now, and I think I'm still quite young, but it was I aged myself quite a lot when I was explaining this. But anyway, you know how Rolodex, like the little thing with all your cards in it?
Yeah,
right?
I have it. Callum was born in the year 2000, so
I was born in the year 2000.
But
when Bruichladdich was reopening now, I was just a toddler.
Glint in your mother's eye. Lovely, right? So
I've never seen a Rolodex or used one, but I know what it is.
Right, you know what it is. Okay, right. So that's kind of what I think I have in my brain, right? So if anyone ever says anything, like when it comes to do with flavors, like my head just goes and goes like to that little card and takes that card out and like reads it and goes, oh, we have memories of strawberries. Like, so someone says strawberry, and I go, Wimbledon, strawberries and cream, Haribo straws. I like those kind of like really fake, artificially strawberry flavor, but that's a different kind of strawberry. So there's like notes on what different kinds of strawberries I've ever had in my life. I have a card for peat, P-E-A-T. Other one would be weird. And the first line on there and is like the first memory that I have of drinking peated whiskey, and it was probably when I was not old enough to legally drink peated whiskey. It was can you say that online? Can you incriminate yourself online?
Why not? Did.
Scottish. I was starting my education young.
Exactly.
But yes, I tried a well-known Islay whiskey for the first time, and I just thought I was being I mean, it was a lovely looking bottle in my dad's cupboard, and I just took it out and had a swig, and I was like, oh, that was a mistake, that was not for me. For me now, I mean, I've grown into my whiskey, thank goodness, but at 16 and not having a clue what anything is other than Lamborghini, was it was a bit of a push in the different direction. So yes, that's what comes into my mind when I think of peated whiskey, right? Is that first memory. Now, what I want you to do is take out your little card in your head and just kind of ready to write a new line, because I feel like Port Charlotte is a different type of peated whiskey. Okay? So what I mentioned previously, and I kind of don't dwell on it a lot, is the fact that, well, I do dwell on it a lot because we're going to go into talking about it quite a bit. So sorry. Is that our malting facility is not at our distillery. It's not even on the island. It is in Inverness at a place called Baird's. Now, that is in the Highlands. And why would they take Islay peat to, when they're doing the malting process and to peat their barley? They use locally sourced peat. And so Port Charlotte, as a peated Islay whiskey, actually uses Highland peat. So it creates a different flavour profile, which which is not synonymous with Islay whiskies, if that makes sense.
You can tell it's a different style of peat, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's more... Hold on. Why not? To be fair, right, Port Charlotte 10 is probably one of my favourite whiskies of all time, and not just in this lineup. It's I will have her anywhere and everywhere. Everyone just thinks I'm a bit of a spoff because I'll order it out. And I'm just like, well, why order something you don't know you'll like when you know you're destined for a great dram? So, but yeah, this one for me is, and again, this is very much my own personal opinion. It's like far more kind of like barbecue smoke, and like kind of like I don't know if it's like cedar trees, but I get a lot kind of like woodlandy notes in there as well. And then this beautiful citrus of kind of like oranges and lemons, like kind of like the peel, like when you like zest an orange over an old fashioned or something like that, smell of the oils. I really get quite a lot of that in there. But as well as and I never thought did that whole thing, but it is just, I love this whiskey so much. It's kind of like the pork crackling you get, or like an American smokehouse. That's like what it is to me. I just love this whiskey quite a lot. But this one here is Port Charlotte for us is the Port Charlotte 10, sorry, is kind of the entry level, if you like, into the Port Charlotte realm. So again, sorry, I can go back and forth. Is at Bruichladdich. So Bruichladdich has 4 brands within the distillery. So we have Bruichladdich by Bruichladdich, which is typically unpeated. Anything released that has Bruichladdich on it is typically unpeated. There have been some releases that says Bruichladdich on it that have a slight bit of peat, I am aware. But moving forward, for the last, I think since Remy took over, really, there's been some bit more of uniformity. So if you see Bruichladdich, it is typically unpeated. Port Charlotte is our heavily peated range. We have Octomore, which is our super heavily peated range, and then of course we have the Botanist, which is our gin, which I have quite a lovely range of those as well now. But Port Charlotte is peated to 40 ppm, so 40 parts per million, which makes it classes it as heavily peated, and this is aged for a minimum 10 years. Again, this is a bit of a vatting, so there are some older vintages in here as well, but it is aged in predominantly bourbon cask, as we love, and a little bit of red wine cask, Bordeaux red wine cask. Again, 50% ABV.
And quite a lot of red wine cask stuff tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have I think it's just been Classic Laddie that's had any red wine in it so far. We've had dessert wine, we've had Sauternes dessert wine in our Islay barley and in our old school, as well as 18. I think do you know what it is? It's bourbon cask is kind of like the meat and the potatoes, right? And then like the Sauternes cask or your dessert wine cask or your red wine cask or your sherry cask is kind of like the little bit of veggies on the side to create a beautiful meal. Does that make sense? Or it's like the salt and pepper, if you like, to your great meal.
Full compliment.
Yeah, it's just a little season, if you like. But this is the first kind of foray I think we've got really into predominantly bourbon and red wine distinctly, whereas there's a little bit of red wine in the classic laddie. Or there might not be, depending on what class we've got, but there is typically quite a bit of red wine in there. But yes, Port Charlotte 10, bourbon cask, and red wine cask. Delicious. But a big thing that we
I heard from I heard from someone else in the whiskey industry that, I don't know if there's any truth to this, that when you buy a bunch of casks from a winery, they also send you some crates of wine. Is that true?
There is still wine inside some of the casks as well, because obviously you don't want them to dry out in transit. So I think if that like is decanted, it can maybe create like a little bottle of wine in itself.
I mean,
someone told me that when they struck up a deal with a winery to buy some of their old casks, that as a thank you, they sent over a few cases of wine as well.
They must do. It's good business, isn't it?
We have, so at the distillery, we have what we call the Academy House, so that if we take any customers over on trips, we typically stay in the house beside the distillery, just so we're nice and nearby. And that fridge and cupboard, so it's like they have like a wine chiller thing in there, is stocked with some incredible wine.
Right.
We'll talk more about wine when we get onto our 7th dram, if that's okay. But yes, I think there must be some sort of exchange, if you like, of whiskey for wine and whiskey and wine for casks and things, because we're never out of stock of wine. And I think Simon and Mark wouldn't have left us high and dry without a decent supply. But yeah,
the handshakes, isn't it?
That's it. Yes, I think it's perhaps Mark or probably both have a lovely wine cellar that if anyone ever visits, it's extensive. But yeah, cool. One thing I kind of want to note, not to kind of turn the mood in any way, but as we move on to our next dram, I think we'll talk about that if that's okay. So we're moving on to the Port Charlotte Islay Barley. I've only got so much space on my table. So in 1993, as I said, White Mackay took over Bruichladdich Distillery, and despite taking it over, I think it was a kind of surplus to need at the time, because they also owned Jura, which was also another island distillery. And I think they kind of made a decision of mothballing Bruichladdich essentially because there was more distilleries on Islay, obviously, compared to Jura. So if they had closed Jura, the people at the distillery would have found it quite hard to get a job, or they'd have to commute to Islay or to the mainland, whereas people in Islay could potentially find another job, hopefully quite quickly. But if you put that down, that's just business, right? So they just decided, surplus to needs, we'll just mothball it and close it. Mm-hmm. You're thinking that overnight, over 20 people lost their jobs, right? Which I think is quite hurtful. And especially it's like in the early 90s as well, like even on Islay, there was a lot of like kind of single income households. So there's households losing entire incomes overnight, right? The kind of community spirit I think it's just so rich in Islay. You meet so many people that are just like the nicest people ever, but they've got such a sense of community and fondness of each other. There's a lot of kind of like batch cooking, a lot of support that echoed throughout the island to kind of make sure that these families were never left without anything. And I just think that's quite beautiful and obviously kept them going until they got on their feet again. And it was in 2000 when we bought over the distillery. We got Jim McEwen over from Bowmore, and we got the infamous Duncan McGilvery to remanage the distillery. And it wasn't until they were kind of like, so Duncan himself, I think, was like, we won't come back, or I won't come back until you kind of make a promise of like, if you're going to do this and you're going to reopen this, you do it for the people of Islay, and you make sure it's done right this time, because I can't be made redundant again. I think at this time he'd maybe gone through 2 or 3 mothballings at that point, so he's just like, this is the last straw, you know. And I mean, we couldn't have reopened the distillery without Duncan, to be fair. I think he knew the inner workings of everything, and of course the distillery was closed for 8 years, so it was a bit of a shell when we reopened it, and he was kind of the man that made everything work again, which is, I mean, big applause to Duncan. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he kind of instilled within Mark and Simon this kind of needs and necessity for it to be for the people and for the land. And I think one thing that I kind of stressed, hopefully not stressed, but just kind of emphasised, is that it is all for creating this kind of sense of place. And obviously where a place is, it's all about the people. If you have a bottle of Port Charlotte near you, or if you pick up one when you finish this lovely tasting, Lord above. One thing that about the bottle of Islay kind of found out about a year ago was, see the aesthetic of it, right? So it is actually a green bottle. If I can get a shiny light on it. I thought originally it was a black bottle. People, that is not. Oh no, we're not even going to attempt to do that. So sorry, that was terrible. It's a green bottle. You can see. Looking at them on the shelf just now, they look like dark or black bottles, but the green is kind of a bit of a nod. It's green.
It looks black. It's green though.
And that's kind of a nod to the classic kind of well-known green bottles of Islay whiskey, right? But if you look at the label, that kind of yellowy orange is like all the gorse that you'll find wildly growing across the island. And then the white and the kind of silvery black is all of the moss that kind of grows on the stones and rock side on the shore of Lochendale, just down the road from the distillery, and obviously on rocks on the seashore across the entire island. The Islay barley, again, this is a 2014 vintage, so this is very similar to the second dram that we had, because it was harvested at the same time across the same farms. However, this barley has been peated. Despite the fact it's not malted on Islay, this is probably as true to Islay whiskey as we can be, to be fair. It's all Islay grown barley. It's all Islay milled, mashed and matured. It's all bottled on Islay, taken care of by Islay people, or Elacs if you like. I think it's just, this creates a true sense of place and just a true sense of community. For those that haven't been to Islay, Port Charlotte is the name of the town, just about a 34-minute drunken walk away from Bruichladdich. I know that's about 15 minutes. I think 34 is definitely showing how many drams I had that day. But it's literally so long from Bruichladdich. And again, it's denoting that kind of sense of place, and really bringing together the community, the people, and just again the place on Islay. So. Sorry, I'm dog sitting there. She was making some noise. I'm just making sure she's fine. She's got her legs up. She's having a great time. But yeah, I think Port Charlotte. So Port Charlotte, actually, funny story. So despite the fact I was saying that all our barley now is malted in Inverness, when we set up the stills, we had obviously got all the machinery working, ticked all the boxes, got everything ready to go. But the only thing we didn't have was actually any barley. So we had to call up Port Ellen, which is the malting facility on the island, and ask them if they could supply us with some barley so that we could start running and get this show on the road. So despite the fact that we were planning on having a peated whiskey within the portfolio, the intention had always been for Bruichladdich to be that unknown, that unheard of, unpeated Islay whiskey. The first thing that we actually made was peated whiskey using Port Ellen malt barley. So that's I thought that was quite a bit of a funny one. We've taken all this care, but the first ever the first new make that came off the sales was actually from Port Ellen, and it was and then became Port Charlotte. So how fun! Yes, that one. Sorry, is that one's 7 years old. So we actually released this one a year before the Bruichladdich. So it's only been matured for 7 years. And this is in, my maths, right? It's an 84% first fill bourbon. It's in 8% second fill virgin. And it's only on Islay you can get a second fill virgin. And 8% Bordeaux red wine casks. And that makes 16, and that makes 84, that makes 100%. And that's good maths right there. You're welcome.
Some good.
That is a terrible joke that a farmer told me one time, and I have not let that go. So that's now part of my patter. So sorry.
I've never been to Islay before, but I'd love to go. Definitely pay a visit to Bruichladdich if I do go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a place I'd love to go.
I mean, one thing I've not really talked about is actually the distillery itself. The distillery itself is, we call it like a working Victorian museum, if you like, because so much of the machinery is the original machinery from 1881. In actual fact, we have an open top mash tun, one of six across the whiskey industry. Funny story is that Bunnahabhain was actually being built, and that was built in 1881 as well. And at the time, their open top mash tun was being delivered to the island, but they weren't ready to accept it yet. So we were like, oh, well, ours is on the way, but it's a wee bit delayed, so you'll be ready for ours, so we'll just take yours. And they're like, yeah, fine, same place, etc., etc. And ours is still going, and I think theirs broke down or broke in the 60s, I'm pretty sure. They were probably less than chuffed, but yeah, that's quite a funny story. But yeah, if anyone's hasn't been to the distillery, it's very blue. There's a lot of aqua. It's a very white building with a heck of a lot of aqua just painted around the place. But within it, we've still got our original Robert Bobby mill, which is very much done on kind of it's a bucket system. So when the barley is milled, it will go around and it's almost like a drop. So it's every minute it like clicks when there's like enough weight in it. It's very cool. Right. Nerdy. You need to go and listen to it because we've also got like the swallows kind of going around the warehouse as well, which is just nice. It's just a nice little serene.
We try to get a staff trip planned at some point.
Yeah, I think we'll have to go over there.
Or a club trip, maybe.
Over. Yeah, club trip would be great.
A club trip sounds great because then we can just get the bus. We can book a bus, go up to Kennaicraig, get the ferry over. The fish and chips on that ferry are absolute class, by the way. Would thoroughly recommend.
Better than the Tunnock's tea cake on the flight.
Bit more fill in the Tunnock's tea cake. That lad say is running down, dishing out our biscuits and then running back, coming up with the bin bag, and you're like, hold on. The ferry lasts a little bit longer. But yeah, it's all fun. But I would thoroughly recommend you go have a little visit around because you get the at the distillery, there's some releases that you can get at the distillery that you can't get anywhere else, which just always kind of makes the journey a little bit more fun as well. So yeah, we're going to move on to, that's my favorite PC, lovely jam. Oh, thank you so much. Love that. It's a little bit, I think it's also a little bit milder, would you say, compared to Port Charlotte 10? So Port Charlotte 10,
I nearly said that. I really like that one as well, to be honest.
It's a bit like, so Port Charlotte 10 for me, is a bit more bolstery, if that makes sense. She's got a bit of an attitude, and I think Port Charlotte is kind of like a teenage rock chick that has a bit of a punk edge to her, right? She's going through the teenage angst, whereas the Islay barley is it's just gentle. I don't know if it's because I had a melon earlier, right? But like the Port Charlotte Islay barley for me is kind of like smoky melon balls.
Right.
Anyone else? Smoky melon balls. Okay, that's fine.
That's the first for tasting notes for me.
Yes. Okay, next one, sorry. So we're going on to, so we've actually quite a coverage of the Port Charlotte range, to be fair. The only one that we're really missing is the Port Charlotte 18, and I would thoroughly recommend you try to source that one, have a little try of that because it is delicious. But we have Port Charlotte 10, we have Port Charlotte Islay barley. Port Charlotte 10 we love because she always kind of stays very much consistent. The Islay barley we have is a yearly vintage, so that will change year upon year. The next one we're going on to is what we call the Cask Exploration Series. Now, this is quite a fun one for me, and I think it's quite a fun one for Adam, perhaps. I think we did have a video. Did we have a video for that one that we want to play?
I totally forgot about the videos as well.
I know, I just realised that because we had
them for the
just
18 as well, and I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Do you want to play the video for this one?
Shambles. I will play the video this time. Roll the VT. Hold on. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, the Port Charlotte. Yeah, here we go.
Port Charlotte's not the same as other Islay whiskies. It's subtle, it's elegant, it's well distilled, it's not one-dimensional, it's not just smoke. I'm standing here in this warehouse, I'm looking out of the front door and I can see the ocean, I can see the sea. I can smell that marine atmosphere coming through, and that shapes the spirit as it matures. We scour the globe. We look around the world for the best wines available, because the best wines use the best oak. The Syrah cask brings a lot of fruit, it brings a nice spice. It brings a unique balance that only these casks with this spirit for this amount of time will create. Looking, nosing, tasting, you can see the identity of the cask that shaped this whiskey. And for me, that is what the Port Charlotte cask exploration is all about.
Terrible there, wasn't it?
You don't really need me when you have that, do you? To be fair, so that was that's Adam Hannett. He's now been kind of promoted, if you like, but I think he's always been kind of known as our master blender. He is the head distiller at the distillery, and he's been kind of taking the steering the ship, if you like, after Jim McEwen retired. And Adam, he's some man, by the way, right? Because like, cask exploration series for me is so cool because it's all about futuristic thinking and futuristic expectations of what you think a whiskey is going to do. The SYC is a Syrah cask, also known as Old World Shiraz. And this one here is, I'm going to do two different things at the same time. The SYC, right, is Bordeaux, it's bourbon cask and then into Syrah red wine cask. So it spends 5 years in bourbon cask, 4 years in Syrah cask, and then it's transferred back into second fill bourbon for its 10th year. So where Port Charlotte 10 is 10 years old, it is 40 ppm. It is a combination of bourbon and red wine casks. Syrah, or SYC01, is bourbon, then red wine, then back to bourbon. So it's more about the movement of whiskey rather than the collaboration of it, which I think is incredible. Because see, if you look at the colorings, if you've got any of the 10 left from like 2 whiskeys ago, the coloring of that compared to the coloring of this one is so different, which I find very, very interesting. But the cask exploration for me is actually it's so, I just can't wrap my head around it, to be honest with you, because this isn't a series this isn't a release that we have year upon year. It's not always bourbon 5 years, red wine 4 years, bourbon final year, release, and we just do it over and over again. No, we've had I think this is the 10th or 9th or 10th release within the cask exploration series. We've had some infamous ones that we've called MRC for legal reasons, and I will not be the reason that we are having another lawsuit, so back music. We've had
you told the story on the Friday of the live tasting, did you not?
Aye, because no one was filming me. Can you imagine? No chance.
For legal reasons, no, she didn't tell that story.
Yeah, fair dues.
But we've had a Pauillac cask, but more recently in my kind of time, we've had the SC01, which was a Sauterne cask. But it's not just the new make of Port Charlotte goes into Sauterne cask 7, 8 years, and then it's released after maturation. No, it's a manipulation and almost like a exploration, if you like, of what our new make of Port Charlotte can do across different cask types. And it's about having this kind of foresight and expectation of what the whiskey could do at different points. So the SC01 was different parcels of Oloroso sherry and bourbon cask that were then cast together into first fill Sauterne cask. And then it was aged in there and then aged in there, and then it was recast into second fill Sauterne before it was then vatted and released. And I just think, see that movement of whiskey, not only is it a lot of work, but he's having to think about this years in advance of like, okay, I've tried this at 4 years old. I think that'll be great at 5, and then we'll move it over here, and then we'll do that with it after then. Let me just try that in 2 years' time, and see, having that kind of like mental capacity, because
times that by X amount of projects that he's got going on as well at the same time.
Right. Right. I think that's mental. And I'm just like, see what, because we were in the Port Charlotte warehouse, and even just that goes on for quite a bit. And I'm just like, when he knows where all the casks and things are, and I'm just like, but they're not side by side and like that's that project. You're having to go up and down finding different ones. I'm just like, but how do you know that? And he's just like, oh, I've just, and he's like the most humble guy about it as well. Because you're like, how does your brain hold all that in? Do you know what I mean? It's wild. But I think the cask exploration is just such a wonderful display of what raw, like what our kind of new make spirit can do, and what that spirit does, and how versatile it is. But also, again, probably just the fantastic cask management that Adam and the team have of being able to display that in such different adventures. So because, like I said, that one was a SCO one, which was the Sauterne, which this one is a SYC. So this is Bordeaux red wine cask, which is a completely different avenue. Do you know that way? So I think it's incredible. This one's really still a bit higher. I think it's 54.4% ABV.
That's what I've got here. Yep.
Let's go along the thing. Thank goodness, because I don't have a bottle to hand, so this is very much on my part. But yes, this one's a slight elevation. So of course, the first 6 that we've had so far have all been 50%. So we're just going up a little bit to kind of prep you for the last one that we're going to have. But this one, again, it's a bit more of a limited edition release within the Cask Exploration series. So once that's gone, it's pretty much gone. And then we're on to the next one and on to the next adventure. And I think this kind of just is a bit of a lineage, if you like, that stems all the way back to the first, to the 2 refounders, Mark and Simon, and just nodding to their ties and their expertise within the within the wine industry, and the relationships that they left us with, allowing us to have such incredible casks, because as Adam so rightly said, wonderful wine use wonderful oak, and that oak can then be reused and create some really wonderful whiskies. So hope you've enjoyed that one. Hopefully, as well as it's such a beautiful rose gold colour, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's a great dram. Really good dram.
I noticed the extra strength, like from the previous 2 at 50%. To be honest, it does taste a bit stronger. But yeah, it's lovely dram.
See, for me, so the last one that we had, so SYC was 2 releases ago. No, SC was 2 releases ago. It's R2D2 talk, isn't it? Trying to remember all our acronyms. But the one previous to this was PMC, which was a Pomerol cask. Now that one was about 55.4%. That one I wouldn't have put water with this one, but I think when I drink this, but I add a little drop of water, and I think it opens it right up. So on my head, be it if you're doing that and it's it doesn't work for you. But
I've
for
not
me,
actually saved much.
No, but for me, it very much opened up a bit more gentle.
Yeah.
Cool. Last one. This is actually flown down. I don't think you can just talk to yourself for ages.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm so glad you
Any questions
because I would just stare at myself.
In the chat there. Have you ventured into Palo Cortado finishes? Martin's asking.
I am pretty yeah, I would say so. Palo Cortado it's not one that I'm quite familiar with across any of our lines so far. I don't think we've had any single casks in my time that have had Palo Cortado casks, but that's maybe a wee question that I can ask and I can get back to you if that's okay, Martin. Would that be all right? Sorry for not being able to answer your question. I can answer most questions, but that is one that I am feeling on right now. Maybe a Google Gemini can help me out.
If you do find out, Sarah, feel free to email myself and I'll pass it on to her.
I'm going to write myself a wee note.
I imagine they've got some in the pipeline. It's what a lot of distilleries have been doing.
I was going to say it's one that's kind of popped up a lot more recently, and it's I love spotting these trends in the whiskey industry when someone releases something with a new style of finish or a new way of doing something, and everyone tries it and everyone agrees that it's amazing. So a lot of other people start doing it, and it's really cool to see. Like, it's brilliant to see that sort of thing happen.
Well, exactly, and I think that's kind of where we became. I think we were for a while. I think we are kind of still known as the Progressive Hebridean Distillery. It's because we were just doing so many things that people hadn't done before. I think a lot of whiskey was not very many whiskies were aged in wine casks. I think we were one of the first to really kind of pursue that side of things. But again, like the kind of transparency when it comes to provenance and barley is one of the trends that we set, I would say, which was always quite fun because there's been so many distilleries that have opened since then, and really kind of pushed for that, which is amazing. An all-inclusive journey to Islay. I feel like I should go as well, just to make sure that they have a nice time.
You'd be more than welcome, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you. I mean, I could I'll shake a few hands and hopefully someone will let us into the good stuff. Get Adam, ask them if you could just
I
take
think
the
Brian would
keys.
have something to say about it though.
Cool. I think we're going to go on to our last dram, if that's all right.
Yep.
We're going to go on to... Oh, it's in a different box. I'm going to have something else. That's all right. We are... This is strange to me, not having a wine.
It seems like a common thing for Bruichladdich, to be honest. Wine influence. So
yeah, it's
I'm liking what I'm tasting, to be honest.
It's quite a lot of our whiskies are matured in wine. One thing, I mean, I don't want to ever correct anyone because it's not a sense of correction, but it's we don't really finish our whiskies in wine, if that makes sense. They have like a journey within wine. Sometimes they might finish their journey in wine, but sometimes they start and then they finish in something else. So for example, the SYC starts off in bourbon cask for 5 years, and then it is recast into Syrah red wine casks, and then it's recast into second fill bourbon cask. So we just say it's a maturation or an exploration of
it's like a secondary maturation or whatever.
Yeah. But yes. Octomore. Shall we go into that?
Final question here. Well, not a final question, but another question from Martin. What's your thoughts on tequila cask finishes?
My personal opinion, Martin, or the thoughts of the
whichever mask you like.
There has been some within a tequila cask that I've enjoyed. Not like, I mean, just other distilleries which I've really enjoyed. I don't think we've done anything with tequila so far. We have had rum and we have had cognac casks. Obviously, you can tell what cognac cask we use. Remy Cointreau also own Mount Gay, so you can maybe guess what rum cask we've used as well. But I don't think tequila has been anything that we've had yet, because I think we like to have eyes on kind of like what's happened before the cask as well, and having that full traceability. So like what tequila was in it, where did the tequila come from, where did the agave plant grow, etc., etc. So I think there's not we don't have that yet with a tequila house, as far as I'm aware. And that's just from my own knowledge. I could definitely ask for something like that as well. Sure, they've done an old village in Palacatada, maybe in a finish. That's news to me. But again, I can definitely find out and get numbers and stuff of ones that we've done in a Palacatada. But from my own personal experience, that's not something I've ever had the privilege or pleasure of trying. But I would very much like to, because I feel like the new make spirit of Bruichladdich very much lends itself well to a lot of different cask types, which is great. Which allows us to actually be able to have these different villages and things as well. And if anyone hasn't tried any of our micro provenances before, which is our kind of name for our single casks, definitely have a little try of that, because it's some really interesting casks that we have of those.
I think wine is a popular thing in the whiskey industry these days as well. So there's a lot of distilleries doing wine maturation, wine finishes, things like that. So it is definitely a common thing.
It just lends itself so well to imparting flavour. I think it's just kind of a bit more of a I don't know who was screaming there, but that's quite
that sort of reunion going on right outside our front shop. But apologies about that.
I thought
maybe cheering for us. I don't know. Yeah, I think they're cheering us on.
Sorry, but yeah, I think we've across the whiskey industry, we've really utilised the influence that sherry has on new make spirits and in whiskey. So why not try that with wine? I think there's so many varieties and different types of wine and so many beautiful casks that we can use. So it just imparts different new avenues that we can explore with whiskey. So it's something I'm actually trying to get more into as well, is drinking more wine. I mean, it's never a bad thing to drink more wine. Better to drink more whiskey, but drinking more wine is always good. But I think we use really, really nice casks, and that wine is expensive. So I'm just like, oh, the journey can start somewhere else when someone else is trying to teach it to me, to be honest. But yeah, sorry, we'll go into Octomore because we've got a wee bit to say about that one while we go into our last dram, if that's all right. Has anyone that's in the live chat not had an Octomore before, and this would be their first ever foray into this side of our distillery? Let us know. Octomore is always a fun one to kind of talk about, especially for me, because like I said, I went to my first facial this year and had the pleasure of actually staying on Octomore Farm in the kind of old Octomore Distillery farmhouse. So there used to be a distillery, an Octomore distillery, in years gone by, years way gone by. But there's a little kind of farmhouse convert that's now been made into a little house that is owned by James Brown, who is our farmer, and he owns and farms on Octomore Farm. I was going to make the Godfather of Soil joke, but I feel I absolutely ruined that one last time, so we're just going to keep that one in the back pocket. But he is a wonderful, wonderful man. He's in his 70s, and he's still very much an active part of the distillery, of his own farm. I mean, the morning of Fèis, he was attending the masterclass and then skipped out on the end of that to go attend to his Highland coos. And some man, by the way, somebody. But he is a big part of the distillery in itself and a big part of Octomore. Obviously, his farm is Octomore Farm. What we're trying this evening, what we've actually tried across all of our releases that you've had this evening, is part of his farm. So all of our whiskies at Bruichladdich, so whether it be Bruichladdich, whether it be Octomore, whether it be Port Charlotte, they're all bottled to strength using Octomore Spring Farm water. And this is a little bit different because when you go up a hill and then down a hill, you get to this kind of like burn, which is obviously using kind of like dirty burn water. And then that goes into the treatment area, which then kind of feeds the taps and the people of Port Charlotte town. But just to the left of that is just a wee kind of shabby hut, if you like. Sorry, Uncle Remy, it's a shabby hut. They need a new one. You go into this hut and there's essentially just a circle in the middle and like a big heavy metal crate, if you like, covering this pit of water, this well of water. And we got a little kind of a lynch thing on a chain that we send down and we bring up, and it is the most crystal clear, beautiful water. And it just sounds so like nerdy, like the water's amazing, but it actually is. Like, we went the day after Fèis and that thing blew the cobwebs off of any hangover I was feeling that day. But it is incredible. There's been like geologists out studying like the rock formation that the water goes through, because they can't understand where the origin of this water comes from, because it transcends under the Atlantic seabed and then goes through like different rock formations, or like the Rins of Islay. And I was like doing a tastings one year, and there was a girl there, and she's a geologist, and she was just saying something, and she's like, I was like, did you say diamonds? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, so it's diamond water. Excellent. I'm using that. The best water you can use. If people are like, the water doesn't matter, the water matters, I'll tell you that for free.
Great marketing word, that, isn't it? Excellent.
I know, but I know it's actually really, really quite cool. So the day after Fèis, James was actually coming down in his truck, and he was just like, didn't realise it was Monday. I need to turn the water on. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I need to go up and turn the water on. So it pumps the water into this big massive tank that allows it to fill up, and then he drives this tank down to the distillery where they then use that for bottling their releases, which I think is very cool. But Octomore as a brand is it's kind of like an enigma, to be honest with you. There's or an onion, if you like. There's just so many layers that you can peel back to Octomore. People kind of knew it or know it as the most heavily peated whiskey in the world. We have had super duper heavily peated Octomores before. The origin story, if you like, of Octomore is Jim McEwen went to Baird's in Inverness and found that when they malted their barley, they actually did it to quite a high level. and then they cut it with unpeated barley to allow them to have a bit more like a concentrate, and then to dilute it down so they could have a bigger yield.
Yeah.
So when he went up, they were doing it with Port Charlotte, funnily enough, and obviously Port Charlotte 40 ppm, and at the time they had malted the barley to 80, and they would cut it to 50% with unpeated barley to get us the 40 ppm barley that we needed. But Jim being Jim and that kind of curiosity of the what if and why not, he was like, what would happen if I used that barley and malt and distilled that? And I think there was a bit of a back and forth of, it won't be very good. But what if I just give it a go? It won't be very good. I'm buying it. So just send that up the road.
Just try it. Why not?
Just try it. I mean, what can go wrong? 16 series later, I feel we've not found a bad one, which is great.
I like it, yeah. I don't think it tastes as strong in the peat department as it's made out to taste, but
yeah.
I don't know.
So that's again, so what we're just for anyone, like, again, just trying to level of transparency, we are at 101.4 ppm. Boys, you can probably pick up the and just picture.
Tell me on this.
101.4 ppm at 59.3% alcohol.
Yeah,
so the 16, yes, the 16 series is it's a Octomore itself is it's a bit confusing because there's different releases within a series, right? The 16 series, there's 4 editions within the 16th series. So 16 being the number on the left, and then 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 being the different iterations. We just typically talk about the first 3 because the 4th one is normally just as a distillery exclusive. Sometimes we get a little bit that we can tease out to customers, but typically it's just the first 3 that we concentrate on. 0.1 is what I call Octomore in its most vulnerable and honest state, if that makes any sense. It's naked in a way that all it has been matured in is 100% first fill bourbon casks. So the spirit has to be good, right? Because there's only so much that a bourbon cask can imply and implore it into the whiskey itself. 0.1 and 0.2 are an interesting one because they're both using Scottish mainland barley. They are the same new make, but 0.1 goes to the left and it just goes into 100% first fill bourbon cask. 0.2, similar to what the cask exploration of the Port Charlotte is, that is a European cask exploration that we do. It's the 0.2 this year. It started its life off in Oloroso sherry and Bordeaux red wine casks, and then it was casked together and then split out, and then went into Madeira and Moscatel casks. And then it was vatted together again, and then it was bottled, which I find quite interesting, to be fair, because you're just doing a bit of a mismatch. And again, that's that kind of foresight of what the whiskey's going to do, and it's incredible. Yeah. But it's just kind of showcasing like what the same spirit can do, and then how the maturation has an impact on the same spirit, if you know what I mean. So if you've got the exact same thing going in different directions, it's almost like it's just a big, massive whiskey experiment, isn't it? We're just whiskey geeks, whiskey scientists at Bruichladdich. This is what I feel. Different variables, given different directions, giving you wonderful, great results and great whiskey at the end of it. But it's just a nice showmanship of what great spirit is as it in its truest form, and that's what hopefully you're enjoying this evening. And I think 0.1 as well is quite an important one to try as your first Octomore, because it is, again, like I said, in its most kind of honest state. But it kind of creates this, what we call the impossible equation. And how can something be so high in ABV, 59.3, so high in ppm, 101.4, and relatively young in maturation years? So these are all 5-year-old whiskies.
5 years, yeah.
From 10, 18, 10, 8, 10s again. But this is our youngest one on the board, and it's a 5-year-old. The 0.3 within the series, so the 0.1 and the 0.2 will come in that kind of black matte bottle, if you can see it. But the 0.3 typically comes in a frosted bottle. The 0.3 is our kind of Islay barley expression. So where we have an Islay barley expression within Bruichladdich, we have an Islay barley expression within Port Charlotte. The Octomore 0.3 is the Octomore of Octomore. So all the barley is grown on Octomore farm. So it's a single vintage, single farm, single estate barley that creates the higher ppm whiskey. So the 0.3 is always a kind of the push, if you like, as well. It's a higher ppm. So this one, the 0.3 is 189.5 ppm this year, and sitting at 61.6% ABV, if my memory serves me correctly. And that one's matured in 70% bourbon cask, 15% PX, and 15% Sauterne cask as well. And that's a really lovely comparison to have. So you have the 0.1 versus the 0.2 to see how they differ and how they oscillate. Then the 0.1 versus the 0.3 and how they differ as well. Just that little bit of different cask management at the end, but also how the different provenance barley have an impact, but also higher ABV, higher ppm and things as well. 0.1.
Nice balance to that one, I thought.
Do you think it's actually relatively
doesn't taste as strong as it's made out to be? Doesn't taste as peaty as it's made out to be? You know, it's just a nice.
I totally agree.
Nice level.
Yeah.
Like, see, on paper, right? If I just wrote on paper 5 years, 101.4, 59.3, you'd be like, probably no for me. I'll give that one a buy and try something else. Whereas then you're presented with this, that's what I mean. It's it shouldn't make sense, yet it does. And Octomore for us as well is a bit more of a kind of conversation dram, if you like. It's one that you kind of sit over, and it's not a Bruichladdich Islay barley where you're sitting having these for breakfast. It's
There are a couple of questions for you, Sarah, by the way. I don't know if you saw the one from Ian Williamson. I don't know if you've answered it or not yet by now. But he's asking
so
about the ppm number versus the original.
So we always, just so that we're keeping ourselves straight, because obviously we've had so many releases, so many series of it already. We always do pre-distillation. That's where our reading comes from, and we don't do post-distillation. We just do the reading that the malt.
Is that a dog?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to get out. That the malt.
Get on the camera.
There are actually some distilleries so that give you a post-distillation reading, which I find quite interesting. But I think we try to set we kind of follow the industry standard of having it pre-distillation. So yes, you will lose some of that within distillation and within maturation. So in reality, is it the most high ppm compared to post? Questionable. But at the time of malting, it's the highest ppm malted barley used in whiskey.
Yeah,
I quite like it.
It seems like a good benchmark to set yourself against as well. So
yeah. But what I was saying as well, sorry, to go on, the 0.1s are a great one to have, because like I said about 2.5 hours ago, was that the vintages that we have within the Bruichladdich Islay barley, they will change year upon year because it's single vintages. The 0.1s across Octomore, they're interesting ones to have as well, because they will change year upon year as well. And they are, again, single vintages, single harvest, because it's all 5-year-old whiskey harvested from 1 year. And it's always first fill bourbon as well. So they're quite cool to try side by side. So if you can get a 15.1, or if you want to wait till September and get a 17.1 that can add to your 16.1 that you're going to purchase this evening, you can try them side by side and see how they differ, which I think is quite a cool thing to do as well. But I think the only thing that we've really not touched upon is black art. That's kind of the one that's like the antithesis of Bruichladdich, where there's I don't know anything other than the ABV and the age. It's just one of those things that Adam goes away and tinkers with and creates something magical. But it is kind of like the secret child of Bruichladdich, where you don't really know what's going on, but you've just got something delicious to try. I think I've covered everything. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to.
There's a question here. I think it's been covered.
Yeah, I think you basically covered it by saying that it changes for every iteration.
It changes every iteration as well.
Yeah, so and there are. The very first one that we did was was Futures, which was the release using that 80 ppm barley that Jim bought.
Yep.
And that was at 80, so that's the very first one that we done. Which I think, again, in itself, it was just like 80 ppm. Are you joking? Do you know what I mean? And we've pushed the boundary since then. I think it was 8.3 that we had 309.2. Last year we had 15.3, which was about 307.1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
307 something. So we've pushed the boundaries year upon year, and I didn't realize it actually depends on, see, when when Baird's is malting the barley, like the ppm is very much reliant on how windy or how not windy that day is, because they'll have the windows open. So if the windows, if the ceilings and things are open and it's windy, the barley won't have as much contact. But if it's not as windy, it'll have longer contact, so they actually have higher readings, which I love.
Yeah.
I think it's just so random, but just like
There's so much to it. There's so many factors.
Yeah,
you know
so
what I
many
mean?
variables.
So many variables. And again, that's a fun thing, is that we lean into that. We celebrate change. We don't be like, it has to be 80 or it has to be 105.3 every year, because that's just not the reality of it. And we're just like, okay, cool, then what's it done this year? How can we have a play with it this year? What are we doing this year? It's actually just quite nice to just go with how it wants to be. It's moved on since my first visit. We are making the best of white guy cast anyway. Fantastic to know what journeys. Ah, thanks, Robert. We're doing our best.
I think
everyone I've tasted tonight's been
a cracking,
a really good dram, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a quality line.
Fantastic.
Do we want to put in the comments what everyone's favourite of this evening has been? Because that would be good for me.
I can talk a little poll if you like. There is the capabilities within this software, so bear with me. I'll try and set it up.
See if we can do that. In the meantime, what's your personal favourite, Sarah?
Oh, I think I've just got an affinity for Port Charlotte 10. I just love it. Love it. The old school is flipping delicious, though. I didn't realise how quaffable that thing was until I had the first dram back in March.
Old school and the Islay barley, for me, absolutely fantastic. Rest are great, but I think 2 and 3 for me.
What's growing on me is very much the Port Charlotte Islay barley, though, and I think I don't know if it's just like Port Charlotte Islay barley is like the middle child of the middle child, right? So it's like so underrated. But when you just take a wee minute to like give it some time, give it some airtime, it's you're like, oh, this actually is a great whiskey in itself, and the story and the messaging that goes behind it as well. Like at the end of the day, like it's marketing and it's the storytelling that really does sell a whiskey. But then when you actually give it the time of day and you understand why it's been made the way it has, I feel like there's more like heart that goes into it because of how much work has gone into making it and getting it in your glass today. Especially, by the way, I just want to give a shout out to you guys and to Brian and all the team at TV Watson, because see the amount of work that goes into decanting all of these whiskies into the little bottles. And how many you've done over the last few years is incredible. So well done to you guys, and well done for your for hosting the first tasting.
So I've set up a poll, but it only allows me to do 4 options. So I'll do the first 4 first, which is the Bruichladdich, which makes sense. So you've got option 1, classic laddie, option 2, Islay barley, option 3, old school, or option 4, the 18. I think it's just a case of typing the number 1, either 1, 2, 3, or 4 into the chat, and then it would register that as a response. So let's give it a go.
That's fun, because then you can do your favourite unpeated and then your favourite peated one. That's quite a nice way to split it.
Absolutely. So that's makes sense. So let's see what happens. Start and show. Let's go.
Right. Okay. So if you just type the number.
If you type the number of which one you preferred in the chat, then it should register that as a vote. Technology.
For me, lads, not gonna lie.
It's very fancy. Watch this. No responses.
1 and 4, gorgeous. You can't beat a classic laddie, can you? Really?
Great.
Value for money, unreal.
Yeah. So I think the comments we've had so far are. Yep. All right. They're coming in now. They're coming in now. It has to. I think it has to be just the number on its own. No multiple numbers or anything like that, I'm afraid. Just pick your favourite and type that number, I think. But
Russell, I absolutely love your commitment to the Sierra cast. Thank you for that. That was they're like, that is adamant. That's my favourite. Thank you.
Disregarding the rest completely.
I don't care about your first 4. This is my favourite.
7.
Cut to the peak.
The 18 coming in hot. Love that.
Yeah. I think the 18's a great dram though.
It's such a good dram, isn't it? It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to pick a favourite, to be honest, though.
I always thought it was like trying to figure
I
out
really like
a child, but then I'm like PC 10.
I like the old school, actually. I like that a lot.
I thought that was great.
But the 18 was quality.
Do we have any of the old school left for people to buy, or did that all go?
We do.
We have
Do?
some.
Oh, fab.
It's not on at an offer price, as they'll notice on their sheets as well. It's just at the £60.
This one has sold out from us. This one sold out quite quickly, which is fab for us, which is because given the market and things. But Brian and I did a little bit of a conversation between like, I'll give you some stock so that when we do our tasting, we've got something quite cool to kind of allow the people attending the tasting to kind of get a bottle of. Just it's a bit harder to get. So there is a bit more or stock of that, which is great. So if you are in the market for a new whiskey and something that's truly quaffable, the old school is definitely one to get. Because others are, other than the kind of Syrah cask and your Octomores, the others are very much kind of core products that we can come back to again and again, which is great.
Yeah.
Well, if I can figure out what I was doing originally about the polls, then I'll try and do a poll for the second half.
Yeah, so it looks like the old school took that in the first half, just
50% for the old school, 33% for the 18, and then 17 for the Islay Barley. No votes for the classic laddie.
A late vote has just come in to tie it. We're
tied.
split.
We're tied.
Well.
We're tied. That's a fair result.
That's a very fair result. We'll do the second half now.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah, no,
10.
thank you very much, Sarah, for your time. It's been a great evening. Great whiskies as well.
No, thank you for having me. This has actually been so, like, I thought I was going to get a bit, like, I don't know, overwhelmed with it being so different. Because, like, see, normally, I think this years are here. But you know what I'm like? I'm always just like, I like a wee chat, and I like going around just having a bit of a natter with everyone. So I was a bit nervous in case I wasn't going to see enough.
It's a bit different on the online tastings, isn't it? But
I liked it. I think I'll do more of these. Then I can just flop it at bed in 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, I know that you're probably used to Zoom tastings and stuff like that, where it is, you know, you're speaking to our customers, and that is definitely something that we're maybe looking at for the future, for a couple of reasons. But it's we like the way that we do it at the moment.
I like the chat as well, though. I like having that. Like, I feel like sometimes on Zoom, people maybe don't want to, or Teams, people don't really want to speak up. Whereas just having a chat's quite nice. But then I see people can have chats amongst themselves as well without interrupting the speakers, which is great. It's fab. Yes, Russell, your favourite again. Love.
Yeah, type the number, Russell, so it registers in the vote.
It registers. There we go.
The vote is now live.
Through.
Just Octomore and Syrah cask at the minute.
Neck to neck. Love that.
Russell's got about 5 votes for the Syrah cask.
There we go.
Islay Barley to finish off, I think. Gorgeous.
To be fair, it was pretty good.
That was excellent. Yep. Yeah, I definitely think that you do a good job to stand out on a shelf that, as you can see behind us, is full of whiskey. Branding wise, you do a good job to stand out. Certainly the Octomore, very distinct bottle. Classic Laddie as well, in the aqua colour that you've coined it.
Iconic.
Yeah.
The Octomore is actually like an old. I think it's just an off-the-shelf Italian olive oil bottle. I think they actually picked that one so that it was a bit more in your face, but also because it's so tall, it has to go on the top shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on our top shelf.
Yeah, well, that's where it belongs.
You know, you could almost play that off as a missile when you're talking about WMD. And you're, take that back to your marketing bigwigs. And,
I'll whack up a new label. Compare this now. Love.
Overwhelming winner for the Syrah cask, it seems like.
Lovely. Oh, that's nice. PCI, look, no PC 10.
So that's a great response for that one.
Yeah, Octomore as well, getting some love, which is always good to see. We do like that.
drams 1 and 2 get neglected as previous vote.
Sarah, your favourite was number 1, so that counts as a vote.
It does. Well, I put. Can I join the chat? Oh, I have to connect my YouTube. Oh, okay, well, I'm not doing that. No one needs to see that history. I think it's just me looking up song lyrics from when I was like 18 or 17 or something.
I know. I think we'll move on to the raffle now. But yeah, thank you very much, Sarah, for your time.
If you stick around in the call, we'll catch up with you after the raffle.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, thank you very much, Sarah, and hopefully everyone else appreciated your time.
Thank you so much for having me. That was great.
This hot Friday night, and everyone could just show their thanks for Sarah. That'd be fantastic.
Thanks all. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
It's been an excellent night.
It has been.
So you can send me to the shadow realm now if you want. I don't know where I'm
going. We'll see you in a moment, Sarah. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Cheers. Take care.
Right. Raffle time. We've got 3 prizes to pull out. So, Johnny, do you want to do the honours for the first one? Just read out the number.
414. Don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, that comes through. 414.
414.
414. Let me take a note of that. Second prize.
It's no lookies as well.
Yeah.
410.
410. That could be the same person.
Is that the same strip? That's pretty lucky if that's one person.
Right, final one. Try not to pull the same strip.
I'm doing my best. The number of the beast. 666.
666.
Well done.
There we go. Well done to those winners. We'll be in touch. We'll ship it out if you place an order. And if not, then you're not getting your prize. So, no, we're kidding, of course. We will send it out to you. But no, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday night. I think you'll all agree that we've had 8 amazing drams in their own right. Even if peat's not your thing, I certainly think Port Charlotte 10 very approachable as an entry level to peat.
I even thought the Optimal was approachable.
Yeah, it was. It's not.
I don't mind.
It's not as smoky as you think it's going to be. But I think just even smelling the empty glass now, you can smell it. But no, thank you all. Thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for your comments, and we'll catch you at the next one.
You never know. It might be me and Callum back again at some point in the future.
It could be.
But yeah, we appreciate your time tonight, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. So good night.
Take care.
Cheers.